You are Locked On Buffaloes Postcast, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your Locked On Buffaloes Postcast, a rare daytime edition of the program. I feel like we normally do these late at night or into the early hours of the morning. And today it is 1 o'clock, 1:47 in the afternoon here in the Mile High City as the Colorado Buffaloes unfortunately lose their third consecutive game. But there was progress. They did not get blown out in this one. They lose to West Virginia. Your final score here today, 29-22. To help me break it down, our guy, you know him, the great Kevin Borba from Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Aniello Piro from the standard Locked On Buffs postcast. Doing a little crossover here today as well. And are you able to feel a little bit better about the Buffs with a win like today, Kevin, just because of the margin, or kind of where's your initial thoughts at with this game?
Yeah, I think after getting blown out 105-24 over the last two games, like this is, I'm walking away from this game going, not bad, right? Like West Virginia is not that great of a team, but they've really hit a hot streak of late, right? They turned to Scotty Fox, and he's their true freshman quarterback, and he's been really good. And so I walk away from this game from Colorado going, there's a lot of pieces to work with, right? Julian Lewis was a bright spot. There were some guys on defense that made some nice plays like Preston Hodge. And I think the run game looked good at times. Like Draylon Miller, Dallin Hayden had some good rushes in there as well. So positive moments. I do think the same problems that Colorado's had all year were the same things, right? Like they couldn't stop the run. They gave up 200 yards rushing for the seventh time this year. And I mean, I'm sure we were going to talk about it, but Deion Sanders wasted timeout with about like a minute, we'll call it a minute and a half left. And they wasted timeout to kick a field goal. And it's like, if you would have just had that planned, there's a chance you get the ball back and a chance to tie the game at the end there.
Yeah, and look, I'm excited when we get to the offseason. I want to do a big deep dive with you because I think like a lot of those deep dive thoughts will seep into these postcast episodes, at least the last couple of weeks, just because of how bad some things have been. But yeah, I mean, that's just another example of just like not being ready in the moment, right? Like Mario Cristobal-esque, right? Like Cristobal is known to be this fantastic recruiter and puts out these great teams in Miami, but when the going gets tough and the lights are the brightest, he doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to managing the clock. And unfortunately, over the first, 2.5-ish seasons of Deion Sanders, that has been a paramount theme in his coaching. So, look, I don't think that's why they lost the game. They would have had a chance. You kick the field goal there, right? Maybe some magic happens. But you got to give credit where credit is due to West Virginia. And to your point, Colorado knew they were going to run the ball there on their final drive, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. No, I think I don't want to be – this is like the most positive I felt about a Colorado game since in like a month. Right. Like it wasn't a bad performance by any means. Like I really loved what I saw from Julian Lewis. And I mean, we knew what Colorado's problems were. I think week 11? Like we're not learning anything new about this team. It was just like, there it is again. But I mean, you saw it. Julian Lewis, a little nervous the first drive, I think. And it was kind of bold of them to just go 3 straight pass plays right out of the gate. But he settled in. Honestly, I would say his worst play was getting sacked by his own hair. That was brutal. I hate that that's a thing, but I think when you're missing Jordan Seaton and Larry Johnson, both your starting tackles, you get sacked 7 times. Like I think that could easily rattle a true freshman quarterback who should be getting ready for senior prom. But Julian Lewis looked the part to me.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, true freshman quarterback or, all-time great college football quarterback, I think anyone that gets sacked 7 times, it's going to mess with your psyche a little bit. And yeah, you mentioned it, 2 starters, including Jordan Seaton on the offensive line out for Colorado. So I definitely think that plays a huge role into it. But let's have some fun because I feel like we've had to be a little negative or critical out of the last few weeks. I thought Julian Lewis in the second half today was awesome, man. I mean, he finishes 22 for 35, just under 300 passing yards with 299, an average of 8.5 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. We saw a competent quarterback play the position today, Kev.
Yeah, no, we did. And it makes me wonder, like, why didn't we see him sooner? Like, I think Colorado rotated the quarterbacks really early in the season. It makes me wonder, like, what if they had just tried Salter for a month or so and then turned to Lewis? Like, I don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes all the time. So there could have been, maybe he wasn't ready. But I mean, Julian Lewis looked to me like the best player on the field most of the time, right? Outside of Omarion Miller, who's I really think a lot of teams are going to come knocking this offseason for Omarion Miller when the January portal rolls around. If Colorado can keep him, I think they'll have arguably the most dynamic duo in the Big 12 next year. But yeah, just a really great performance. Like that's the best quarterback play we've seen since Shedeur Sanders. So it's been a year.
And I hate to admit it, but I can't lie to you. When he's hitting these touch balls down the field, my first thought is, boy, oh boy, I hope he stays. Yeah. Like, I hope that we get to see more of this from Julian Lewis. Like, where has this been? And I understand, starting the season with Caden Salter, but not pulling the plug sooner. And look, this is one game against West Virginia, so let's not go crazy. But you saw competency from the position, and the broadcast was talking about it left and right. His touch on those passes was incredible. He just looked competent. I mean, I thought he looked great in some passes, in some scenarios, looked a little rough in some others, but it was such a breath of fresh air outside of that Ryan Staub heroics against Delaware in the second half. For the first time all year, it finally looked like Colorado's offense was competent, and that I think is a lot because of Julian Lewis.
Yeah, I think it was competent and confident, right? The one thing that I think Salter has been missing is like a confidence in himself, and I don't know if that was because he was benched or because of the coaching, but when you watch Salter this year, it just kind of felt like he was always hesitant to make throws. And like Julian Lewis, like he has a cannon and he is not shy about showing that thing off. He is ready to huck that thing in there. And I think he loves to make a tough throw. And the one thing about it is like he's making them, right? The throws down the sidelines to Omarion, the throw to Sincere Brown, which I was really confused how he wasn't in bounds until we saw the replay and he was like completely standing out of bounds. But that was a great throw. And like that was just poor positioning by Sincere. Like he let himself get pushed into the boundary, but just awesome play from Julian Lewis.
Well, and I think the other thing with Juju that stood out to me, Kev, is his ability to make plays off script. And it seemed like, with the two offensive linemen down for Colorado, right, there was obviously pressure in his face throughout the course of the game. But where we've seen Caden Salter kind of, and I hate to just put him down, but like, Caden Salter would scramble and it's like a deer in the headlights versus Juju, pivot step, look down the field, find an open receiver, like much more poised at the position did Juju Lewis look. And I see we got a comment here. I wouldn't celebrate Lewis just yet. The West Virginia defense was atrocious. Sure, two things can be true at the same time, but for the Colorado fan base, it was just nice to see competency at that position.
Yeah, when you're 3-7, you got to find the bright spots every once in a while. You can't. I mean, the season's over in terms of like competing for a bowl game. I think that the conversation is, which they reported on the broadcast, that Juju's starting the rest of the way, so they're burning the red shirt. So I think you have to be excited about something. I think this is a game where if you're Coach Prime and whoever else is going to be remaining on that staff in the coming weeks, this is a game you sell to recruits and portal players where it's like, hey, we didn't have the season we wanted, but we didn't have the right players or the right coaches, but we do have this guy. And Julian Lewis is a very easy sell, I would say, to recruits and transfers. Like former 5-star, he was pretty popular as a recruit. There's videos of, I think it's Derwin James he was working out with, and CJ Stroud, right? Like Juju Lewis, his name has been out there. And so him getting the opportunity to play well, I think can help Colorado both on and off the field.
Yeah, and we'll see, because it kind of goes into preservation mode right now for the rest of the season for Colorado, is keeping guys happy, guys that want to come back. We know Dion wants dogs, not cats. That was the big take from him in the postgame last week. So, Julian Lewis is going to be hopefully one of those guys moving forward for Colorado. But yeah, trying to be a little bit more upbeat, some nice takeaways today, despite a loss for Colorado 29-22. All right, let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue along with the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on the game today in Colorado season as a whole. Kevin and I will break it down back here on the other side. Some big picture thoughts on Colorado moving forward the rest of this season. All that more right here on your Locked On Buffs postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at DoorDash, because it's the weekend. The weekend is here, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP, who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I think, Juju Lewis has to be your player of the game from Colorado's perspective. Why don't we just highlight both of the true freshman quarterbacks today? I thought they both did some really nice stuff. Fun game across the board. Juju Lewis, 22 for 35, 299 passing yards and a couple touchdowns. And then Scotty Fox Jr. with 200 202 passing yards, a touchdown, and a couple interceptions. But a fun game nonetheless, as two young guys kind of spread their wings here a little bit in this college football game. So there's our DoorDash MVP of the game, guys. There's so many awesome features with our friends over at DoorDash. I use them a handful of times a year. I know that sometimes you don't want to go out. I know it's not snowing here in Colorado yet, but that snow is coming, and you know that DoorDash is your best friend. So stack those streaks with DoorDash and let them know that Locked On Buffs sent you. Let me also tell you about our friends over at SupplyHouse, guys, because when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for projects? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about an absolute game changer, guys. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process so much smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, real people, real service, and that promo code is SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Check out our friends over at SupplyHouse and let them know that Locked On Buffs sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Buffs postcast. Aniello, Piro, joined by Kevin Borba. Hope everyone is doing well out there in Buff Nation, despite a third consecutive loss. I think most Buff fans are feeling pretty good about the quarterback play today. Exciting to see Julian Lewis. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. But Kev, before we kind of get back to the game as a whole, off the bye, 3 straight losses, bowl game essentially out of the equation at this point for Colorado. What is left for them to accomplish this season?
I think it comes down to figuring out who's a part of your core building blocks moving forward, right? Like, this is an evaluation period and a prove it period. So for young guys, this is a chance to sort of earn a role and sort of get a leg up for next year. It's a chance to showcase like, hey, I'm still showing fight. Hey, I'm still someone you could build around. And then for older guys, I mean, this is the hard part, right? I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. After the Utah loss, it looked like they had quit. I think this sort of shows for the older guys, like, hey, how do I want to end my football career, right? Because there's 38 seniors and grad students on this team. So you have to sort of decide, like, how you want to finish out your career, because not everybody's making to the NFL, and that's okay. That's life. But I think you're at a point where it's like evaluation period and or just finish your career on a high note.
Yeah, and I'm with you there as well. It just – like the West Virginia head coach after the game talked about how, there's a bright future here. We got to get better on defense, but I'm confident we're going to do that. I don't even know what to say about Colorado because I don't know who's going to be here next year. Yeah. And we know where their kind of high school, recruiting's at. You expect a lot of different guys to kind of jump off the ship this year as well. That I agree with you. I think it's a matter of finding like who's a dog and who's a cat, for lack of a better phrase, to use that Deion Sanders line, and try to preserve what little positivity there has been from the team this season and try to bring it over to next year. So we'll see if they could do that. But to your point, man, to bring it back to the game here just a little bit, Draylon Miller did his thing on the ground, 10 carries for 42 yards. We'll see what happens with him in the future. Dallin Hayden has been a bit underwhelming in his CU Buffs career, I would say, 10 carries for 34 yards. But as you and I have talked about time and time again, the one position group they're solid at on offense is wide receiver. Omarion Miller, 6 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown, and Joseph Williams adds 3 for 64 himself. So wide receiver, I feel pretty good about the Buffs moving forward. Everything else, specifically on the defense, questions.
The defense, yeah, I don't. Outside of Tafik Bayard, I think there's little to no, and I hate to be that guy, but I don't think there's anything to be positive about on the defense outside of Tafik Bayard. There's maybe like the true freshman London Merritt and Alexander McPherson, but we haven't really heard much from either of those guys as of late. But yeah, we talked about the dogs and cats things. I know you're kind of joking about it, but I mean, you're going to lose 38 players just regardless. Like, that's if nobody goes to the portal, and I assume you're going to lose a handful of guys to the portal, right? So Colorado's looking at I think they have 12 guys in their recruiting class right now. So you're looking at a roster that probably is going to see 30 to 40 new transfers again. And I mean, I think it's going to see a bunch of coaching changes because I mean, I'll ask you this question. Like, how do you evaluate Robert Livingston? You gave him a lot of money and is like, is it a talent issue? Because if it's a talent issue, then you need to clean house on your recruiting staff, general manager, and all that. You need to get everybody out of there who brought in this roster and figure out who you could bring in. But like, I think you have to figure out how to build a new staff around you. And myself and Chad Brown, Colorado legend, talked about it earlier in the week. Like, use Nick Saban, right? Nick Saban is a close friend of Deion Sanders. Use him to help you find the right people to be around.
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because obviously last year for Robert Livingston, it was pretty good, all things considered, at least, much better than it was this year. And this season has been a disaster. And I'm personally inclined, like, I don't view Robert Livingston the same way that I viewed Pat Shurmur, if that makes sense, right? Like, and I understand that CU's defense has been dreadful. I do think he obviously has a lot of the blame, in regards to how this defense has performed this season. But I also just think that there's something rotten to the core of this Colorado team, whether it's a lack of accountability from the coaching staff across the board, whether it's recruiting. And I think what it speaks to is you can't just go in the portal and bring in a bunch of guys and expect them to all gel together. You need cohesion. You need to go from one year to the next. And it's been roster turnover after roster turnover in the 2.5 seasons as Deion has been here, again going into next season. So yes, I do think Robert Livingston needs to take a long look in the mirror. I do think that Deion maybe needs to hire some real up and coming football coaches as opposed to celebrity friends and figure out how to get this thing back on track. So I don't think firing Robert Livingston or demoting Pat Shurmur is going to be the answer to these problems. I think it is something that's much more deeper in this program that they need to take a step back and reevaluate some things across the board.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part about this, because that requires Deion Sanders to look in the mirror and be like, okay, what can I do better? Right? Because he keeps saying, and that Chad pointed this out to me, and like I had been thinking this, but like to hear it just kind of said out loud, it was like, oh, that's true. Like, Deion Sanders keeps saying like he knows the solutions or he knows the answers and he knows the fix. And it's like, okay, we haven't seen the fix though at all. Like, and like we could say that Julian Lewis was the fix right now for quarterback, but the team itself needs a lot more fixing than this. And so it's like, if you feel like you have the answers and this is your solution, like I don't think you have the answers, unfortunately, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I think Deion Sanders deserves a bit of grace. Obviously, led Colorado to 9 wins last year, which was their best season since 2016. Led them to their first bowl game since 2020. But, I mean, the dude was battling cancer in the offseason. The dude had blood clot surgery like literally a month ago. Like, he's been through it this year. So I think he deserves some grace. But I also think that, like, Rick George the other day, I think it was yesterday, actually. I think it was Friday, said that he supports Deion Sanders like 100%. And it's like, good, you should. But I also think you need to have an honest conversation with him and be like, hey, we have to change some stuff around here.
Yeah, it's interesting, having just been around the program for, the last few years, like, it's not a traditional AD coach relationship. Like, Deion wields the power in that building, and I think Rick George is riding shotgun on a lot of it. Now, I imagine that they'll have a heart-to-heart conversation when they sit down after this season. But to your point, like, there's some real adversity now. Like, the 4-8 season, you still felt good because you had Travis and Shedeur and some other players coming in, right? But like, all the buzz that Colorado was able to get in the transfer portal for this season, which hasn't amounted to anything, is not going to be the case going into this upcoming offseason, because you're not coming off that 8-9 win season. You're not riding the coattails now of Shedeur and Travis. People remember what you do last, and people are remembering this Colorado team that is getting blown out back-to-back games and then losing to West Virginia. So I think it's important for Colorado to try to reevaluate here and do whatever they can to kind of bring it back to what you were saying earlier of who do we have on this roster that's going to be with us next year, and go out there against Arizona State and Kansas State and try to show some level of competency to these high school recruits and to these kids that are going to hit the transfer portal, because it's a long off season ahead for Colorado. So we shall see how that all plays out. And you and I will dive into it as well throughout the course of the rest of this season. But it's a 29-22 loss today for the Colorado Buffaloes, albeit they look better in this game than they had the previous two. But that's not hard when you gave up 50-plus points in those previous two games as well. Buffs at 3-7. Kev, any closing thoughts you want to get off your chest before we get out of here, brother?
Yeah, so there's a comment in the section. I think I don't know if you accidentally put up on the screen, but it was on the screen for a second. If you go 3 up, or now 4 up, what's the answer if you have it? I do have the answer, Mr. Brown. I do. Because the answer is change everything you're doing, right? The answer is clean house on your coaching staff. The answer is put the right guys around you who have college experience. Like AP said earlier in the show, like hire up and coming coordinators, hire guys who know the college game, who could recruit the college game. And then also you have to stop leaning on the transfer portal to be your end all be all, right? Colorado has brought in 30 to 40 transfer guys every year. And I think we could safely say that outside of Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, LeJohntay Wester, and Jimmy Horn, and like there's probably been 10 transfers where it's like those guys are bona fide stars. You're not hitting at a high clip. It's just you're not getting the impact you need. So use the portal as a thing to fill holes, not to build your roster. And then lastly, you need to figure out how to fix your culture, right? I think Colorado has a culture problem. We saw it coming off the bye week where honestly, your best player, Omarion Miller and Joseph Williams, two of your best players, are late to come back, right? You have guys quitting on the team, both in-game and off the field. So fix your culture, make it stronger, put the right coaches around you, and start recruiting, right? You're going to have to bring in a lot of transfers again this offseason, but for 2027, that class, you should probably aim for 35, 40 recruits.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And look, I'm okay with them trying to take the express lane when they know they had Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, right? But now it's time for Coach Prime, I think, to take a step back and play this long game. If he is truly committed to being the head coach for this university for years to come, the foreseeable future, all that kind of stuff, there is no Travis and Shedeur coming, folks. They were over and done with. We enjoyed them while we had them, but I think it's time for Deion and this staff and whoever's left of the staff and this team to really kind of reevaluate some things, and I think they will be better off for it. But he is Kevin Borba. I am Aniello Piro. Do us a favor on your way out the door. Hit that like button. Smash that subscribe button. Really helps us out here as we build up the channel. Colorado, their third straight loss, losing to West Virginia 29-22. Try to enjoy the rest of your Saturday, folks. We'll talk to you guys soon.